What view is only expressed by ignorant people? Being ignorant of something is something to be proud of. I bombed my math test. You too. High five. Math is stupid. I'll never use it once I graduate. They should teach a class on how to do taxes instead. Now this is how it's always been done. We've always done it this way. When you question or come up with a more efficient way of doing something. Not sure where I first read this, but someone told a story about how their mom always cut a leg off the chicken she was cooking for dinner. One day her daughter asked her why, and her mother simply said, "This is how my mother did it when I was your age." So the daughter goes to her grandmother and asks, "Grandma, why did you always cut a leg off your chicken when you cooked it?" And her grandma says, "That's the way my mother always did it." So the daughter goes to visit her great-grandmother in her nursing home, and as she sits down beside her wheelchair, she asks, "Nana, why did you always cut the leg off your chicken when you cooked dinner?" And her little old Nana laughs and says, "I never had a pan big enough for the whole damn bird." Reminds me of the experiment someone did with monkeys, where they had a towel with food on top, or something like that, but they would spray the monkeys with water every time one tried to climb it. Eventually the monkeys would learn not to climb it, and when one monkey would be removed from the cage and replaced with a new monkey, the old monkeys would beat it down every time it tries to climb up the tower, to teach it that it's not allowed to do that. Another monkey would be switched out, and the same thing would happen, until eventually all the monkeys were switched out and none of the original monkeys remained. They would still continue to enforce the rule on all the new monkeys, even though none of them had ever been sprayed with water. They just knew that this is the way it's always. People care about my opinion on the internet. It's got to be good for you. It's natural. You know what else is natural? There's also cyanide. It gets rid of those toxins. What toxins? You know. No, I don't. Name one. I gotta go. It gets rid of toxins. Refuses your vital energy and emits healing frequencies. It rids your body of toxins. I have a liver that's been doing that long before you bought some herbal sh from your cousin on Facebook. How the F did this toxin thing get so big anyways? It's ridiculous. Other natural things. E. coli, asteroids, of radiation, hookworms, Ebola, crude oil is natural. But the company has an amazing business plan. All I have to do is sell some really cool products and sign other people up. It's not a pyramid scheme. It's just multi-level marketing. That's a good triangle. I had a roommate years ago who had the single most ignorant view of voting I can possibly imagine. You should only ever vote for the person you think is going to win, because if you vote for someone and they lose the election, it is a waste of your vote. That is a complete miss on what voting is even full feo. Don't drive carefully, because if you get in an accident and get hurt, then there was no point of being careful. There are two ways to see. Incredibly simplified issue. My way and the wrong way. The only way to drive a car in America is on the right side of the road. In England, both sides are the right side. Apparently, no one told me. Someone switched it, and the left lane is now the slow lane and the right lane is the passing lane. And by passing lane, I mean equally as slow lane. I've heard there's the right way, the wrong way, and the maximum power way. Isn't that just the wrong way? Trust me in the context of a debate of ideas. Prove it to me is the only response. It's not my job to prove it to you / educate you etc. is the usual answer. On the flip side, insisting everything and anything must be proven and cited with 6 academic studies and a journalistic debut. Everyone who is X does Y. F-ing theirs. Always F-ing. That's literally this thread. Oh god. Thank you. Half of this thread itself is an exercise in ignorance and stereotyping ignorance. This summarizes so many of the comments in this thread. The most obviously ignorant people are the ones who oversimplify complicated models. They do this in hope that the world can make simple sense. Unfortunately, the world is massive and chaotic, and a huge percentage of outcomes are primarily due to chance. It is often at this boundary that our most clever of individuals have their ignorant moments, and it is when they refuse to let go that we see anybody can become ignorant. While this is obvious in hindsight, it hurts to admit that any intelligent person can get locked in their own ideal conclusion given certain circumstances. None of us are perfect and thus none of us are immune Even Marizo when we prefer to use simple models for truths. Sure, but a true X does what? No reasonable person could possibly disagree with my narrow political opinion. See all the Brexit result threads on AskReddit. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't care about encryption. I have nothing to hide when I'm having a yet I still shut the door. I'm going to use this and take credit for coming up with it in the near future. Thanks. The thing where they call modern medicine Western medicine and either don't trust it or say stuff to the effect of ancient peoples had secret knowledge and methods of healing naturally or some other vague crap. I usually reply with a quote from House. I think you know what is a great business. Tiny wooden coffins for little kids who died from a completely preventable disease or something along those lines. All natural, no dyes. That's a good business. All natural children's toys. Those toy companies, they don't arbitrarily mark up their frogs. They don't lie about how much they spend on research and development. And the worst that a toy company can be accused of is making a really boring frog. Gribbit, gribbit, gribbit. You know another really good business. Teeny tiny baby coffins. You can get them in frog green. Fire engine red. Really? The antibodies in Yummy Mummy only protect the kid for 6 months. Which is why these companies think they can gouge you. They think that you'll spend whatever they ask to keep your kid alive. Want to change things? Prove them wrong. A few hundred parents, like you, decide they'd rather let their kid die than cough up $40 for a vaccination. Believe me, prices will drop really fast. Gribbit, 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 gribbit. I don't read, said with pride. It's obviously fine not to be someone who enjoys reading as a hobby, but it's certainly not something to brag about. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Mark Twain. The view that won't change when presented with new evidence. A view that was present without evidence usually doesn't care about evidence. You can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into. One of the most frustrating things in the world. I disagree with this, and there is nothing you can show me that will change my mind. Something is wrong and immoral simply because it's against the law, or that something is moral just because it is legal. According to Karlberg's stages of moral development, people that think like that are stuck on the conventional level of moral development. Many adults never move past the stage in which they view morality as following law. That they are still right even if they are wrong, all because they are older than you. I don't like people who read books. This was just stated to me point blank. It's better to murder my daughter with my own bare hands than to have her shame our family by doing X, Y, or Z. There's it again. My very specific chosen political ideology will fix any problem you throw at me, and everyone else is wrong. It's not a pyramid scheme. It's a reverse funnel system. Multi-level marketing, thank you very much. I drive better drunk. No. Your excess full of a brain reeks of immaturity and selfishness, and should be run then wrought with common sense, because your reckless abandon will cause a wreck, and wreak havoc on some wretched soul. I really enjoyed that. Men can't get our edition. A friend of mine was repeatedly R'd by his female cousin as a child. She was a preteen when it started, and he was like 7 or so, and she would demand that he take his clothes off for her, and she would fondle his genitals. If he refused, she'd hit him and threaten to kill him and his dogs if he didn't let her touch him, or if he told anyone. The whole thing lasted until he was in his preteens and she and her parents moved away, but she would still call him all the time and make regular threats that if he ever told anyone, she'd make sure he was killed. When he was a young adult, he finally told his parents about it, and they literally laughed at him and told him that it was impossible, that not only could women not RE men, but his cousin was far too sweet to ever do something like that. He ended up being gay with an intense fear of being touched by women. He'd break down into panic attacks if a girl laid so much as a finger on him. As far as I'm aware, to this day, his parents still don't believe him about what his cousin did. Of course, he doesn't talk to his cousin whatsoever anymore. My ex-boyfriend was R'd by several of his older sisters. Growing up, it was a ref-ed up family. He was so effed in the head Because of it, he grew up in a hardcore part of Mexico City and was never able to admit it or get therapy over it. The only reason I knew about it was he would get really drunk sometimes and talk about it. Broke my heart to see such a tough dude sobbing over something that should never happen to anyone. They took away a part of himself that I don't think he will ever get back. Part of me hopes he doesn't talk to his parents either. This one makes me so angry. Not only can they be read by other men, but also women are perfectly capable of raping men. Even if it's not with brute force, there's still coercion, like blackmail or threats, or getting them intoxicated to the point where they can't give consent. Also, people never consider that strong women are stronger than weak men. Yes, men are stronger on average, but not every man is stronger than every woman. It hurts. I had an awkward friend in high school who was incredibly shy and more or less kept to himself. One day in art class, completely out of nowhere, this popular cheerleader girl decided to just grab his crotch and announced to the class he had a small dick. Everyone laughed. Even the teacher was stifling laughter, and all the teacher had to say about it was that everyone needed to calm down. That was that. Later, my friend broke down in front of me in tears. He was devastated by what happened, but more important to him was that was the first time he had ever been touched in a sexual way, and it was ruined for him by that obnoxious, entitled, terrible person. This happened in the late 90s. I'm hoping things have changed since then, but from everything I see and read, they really haven't. RE and sexual assault are serious crimes, and every case needs to be taken equally seriously, regardless of the victim's gender. I just feel like the current mindset is still stuck in this, oh, all men enjoyed being fed around with. It's funny when men are forced into sexually awkward situations mentality. I mean, let's face it, it's a fact that if my friend had grabbed that cheerleader's boobs and announced that she had small titties to the class, he would have been lambasted as a sexual pervert and a creep, and the school would have taken action against him. That global warming doesn't exist because why is it cold in Alaska then? World hunger isn't real. I just ate a sandwich. I solve world hunger every day thrice. Alternatively, it snowed in January. Global warming is fake. I have ice in my freezer. If global warming were true, then my freezer would be my fridge. Vaccines cause autism. How did it even become a thing? I'm from India and no one thinks that here, or that global warming is a hoax, or that shit about chemtrails. Why does the US want some conspiracy behind everything? Not just America. Sadly, I'm Russian and people are getting up in arms against vaccines here as well. Though usually not because of autism, but because it's not point natural. Depressed people just need to choose to be happy and grateful. Alternatively, people who think depressed people have no power at all, and there's nothing they can do to improve their situation outside of prescription drugs. As a depressed person, that's the real B about depression. It's really important to fight the disease any way we can, because that's the only way to keep it from consuming one's entire life. But one of the primary symptoms of the condition is that it saps your will to fight. It's really easy to be defeated before you even start. I agree, but I mean, I won't look as an horse in the mouth. Just ignore your depression and it will go away, is what I used to get when I suffered from depression. I mean, as someone with depression, that kind of works. I ignore it by trying to sleep as much as possible. Why don't the monkey evolve right now? Alternatively, if we evolved from monkeys, why do monkeys still exist? If Americans came from the British, why are they still British? It's called the theory of evolution for a reason. It's just a theory, but religion isn't a theory, it's a religion. I know that the Bible is accurate. How do you confirm that? The Bible, well, it's still not. Dinosaur bones are put into the earth by Satan to test our faith. I get that you don't understand evolution, because the tangible evidence is a couple of grades over your educational qualification, but there are no bones in most museums FFS. As someone who goes fossil hunting, the devil is pretty impressive on how he binds rock to the fossils and hides them in the most remote location. I'm the elder, so you need to give me respect, but I don't have to respect you at all. Sets me right the F off. Some people think respect means to be treated like a person, some people think respect means to be treated like an authority, and some people say, if you don't respect me, I won't respect you. which really means, if you don't treat me like an authority, I won't treat you like a person. Alright, you're throwing a lot of big words at me. Now since I don't know what they mean, I'm going to take that as disrespect. Same. These people don't understand what respect means. All they really want is control. Right. I used to work with a guy who was always very aggressive and off-putting in his tone towards people. People claimed that's just how he was, but he certainly tried to single people out, I'm sure of it. I always had to talk to him in a very polite and hushed tone for him not to take anything the wrong way, and when I talked to him normally he'd tell me to piss off, or that I was barking at him. However, he talked to me much worse than that on a daily basis. He humiliated me in front of my coworkers over a trivial matter, something I shouldn't have done, but he handled it completely unprofessionally, and saw nothing wrong in what he did. If I had approached him in that same manner, he'd have went absolutely off on me. My dad just said that's how certain people are, but I'm certainly not going to compromise my dignity and integrity for certain people. The best bosses I've ever had are ones who correct my behavior in a very professional manner and explain why. That's someone I can respect because they offered to talk to me in a respectful way and treat me with respect. That the opposing political party is always wrong. That other races are inferior. That the opposing political party is always wrong. Or that they don't agree with any or the opposing party's positions or even understand the reason behind them. Obama is a week out. We need to keep troops in Afghanistan. Obama today. We will keep troops in Afghanistan. Dictator Obama wants to send our children to war. Bring our troops home. I literally watched this unfold on Facebook today. God put dinosaur bones in the ground to confuse us and to make sure we believe strong enough not to question it. Fossils were something the Jews buried in 1924. Classic Jews. Story time. Okay, so when I was a kid my family was pretty active in our church, Protestant, and they'd always try to surround us with religion. I didn't take any of it seriously, but they kept at it anyway. There were a few summers that my family would send myself and my sisters to vacation Bible school. Basically just a church summer camp thing. So this one year we go to a VBS at a super religious church. Everything seems like the normal stuff at first. Draw pictures of what peace or faith means to you. Make bricks from straw and mud, like they did in the time of Jesus. Play Bible verse bingo, and so on. Until the last day, when they brought in these two folk singers to play some songs for all the kids. Obviously these were religious songs, mostly about open your heart to the Lord and love your fellow man type usual church sing-song junk that I tune out. But one of the last songs they sang was a song called Were You There, where they legit tried to debunk the existence of dinosaurs. They kept repeating were you there, and then something about dinosaurs walking the earth, and how we couldn't know for sure that they were real because we weren't there to actually see the dinosaurs. This drives me absolutely bonkers. They were so adamant in their song that dinosaurs weren't real because nobody ever saw them. I'm like, Welsh, you ever see Jesus or God, you idiots? Your whole argument about not believing stuff on faith and anecdote alone literally flies in the face of the whole religious structure you're trying to proselytize. I was effing pissed. A 10-year-old kid, just damned livid at these two morons. That day I truly learned the depth at which ignorant people will usually view the world only in the way that reaffirms their beliefs, despite massive evidence to the contrary and huge hypocritical contradictions. You just described my small town Mississippi childhood, VBS and pent-up rage. Ted Cruz is human, and not 6 lizards in a human vessel. Allowing 2 men to marry will lead to people marrying their dogs. I would get vaccinated against the gay disease, but I don't want to get autism from it. I see your comment and raised to allowing 2 men to marry will lead to extinction of human race. That their view is the best view and or the only view. When will people learn that there's more than one approach to things? The Holocaust never happened. Humans can't see beyond 30 FPS. Yes, these people actually exist. If evolution is real, why are there still monkeys? Java and JavaScript are same. People who use one statement to blanket a whole group of people, all females are bad drivers, gay men are so feminine, etc. The earth is 6,000 years old. Similarly, the earth is flat. I have a sort of respect for flat earthers. There's just something about believing in something so goddamn stupid for so long that you just have to sit back and admire that. My mother on racism. It's alright as long as I'm not saying it to their face. It's not hurting anyone. Also, the government is stealing our taxes. That's bad for you. It has chemicals in it. The view that only humans are sentient. I often hear people say it to downplay animal abuse. Humans are maybe the only ones who are sapient. All animals are sentient. It's not really debatable. It is, but only for animals like lobsters. There is a subtle but important difference. Makes this sort of ignorance even more deplorable when put in context. Don't abuse animals, guys. You're in the privileged group, so you can never understand. You're in the affected group, so you can never understand. Just an attempt to silence other opinions. Abstinence-only education. GMOs are poison. GMOs what are poison? Upvoted for relevant use.